You think HOAs just send nagging letters or slap you with petty fines? That's what I thought too, until they rode up with a wrecking crew and tore down my hand-built walkway in the middle of the day. My name's Ethan Caldwell, and this is the story of how I turned the tables on them. This wasn't about polite emails or paperwork. It was a full-on war money, schemes, and a comeback so epic the whole neighborhood was buzzing. The ending. Sweeter than Mrs. Clara's homemade pecan pie. If your HOA ever messed with something you poured your heart into, drop a comment below. Bonus points if it involved a smug clipboard warrior with a fake smile. Let's just say they picked the wrong guy to tango with someone with a ledger, a dog, and zero tolerance for nonsense. It all started in Willow Creek, a quiet little community tucked along the shores of Lake Harmony, Georgia, in the fall of 2023. I'd built a walkway from my backyard to the luckier steady stretch of cedar that wasn't just boards and boats. It was my morning coffee spot, my quiet place to think, my escape from the chaos of the world. Then one crisp October morning, a letter showed up on official HOA letterhead, signed by none other than Vivian Prescott, our neighborhood's self-proclaimed Queen Bee. The paper dripped with that cold, bureaucratic venom that makes your blood boil. Walkway structure violates aesthetic standards per HOA Covenant Section 14B. Removal required within 48 hours or face penalties up to $5,000. I read it twice, my grip on my coffee mug tightening until my knuckles turned white. This wasn't just an attack on my walkway. It was personal. Vivian herself showed up that afternoon, strutting across my lawn in a lime green blazer that screamed, "I flip vacation homes to rich folks on weekends." Her earrings jangled like wind chimes, announcing her arrival before she even opened her mouth. "Mr. Caldwell," she said, clutching her clipboard like it was a royal scepter, "I trust you've seen our notice about your unauthorized structure." I pointed to the walkway, then to my property survey, then back to her smug face. "Vivian, this walkway is on my land, leads to my dock, and doesn't break a single rule in your precious covenants." She squinted at me like I just recited poetry in a foreign language, then scribbled something on her clipboard with the intensity of a judge signing a death sentence. That evening's emergency HOA meeting was a circus, with Vivian as the ringmaster. She stood at the head of a rickety folding table in the community center, her pen slashing through the air as she ranted about aesthetic harmony and community standards. She'd bullied neighbors before making one family repaint their fence 4 times to match her approved shade of taupe, forcing an old couple to dismantle their garden arch because it blocked sightlines. But my walkway. She called it a symbol of defiance that threatened property values. I stood up, my chair scraping against the linoleum, and asked the obvious, which specific covenant does my walkway violate? Vivian's earrings rattled as she fumbled through her papers, her face tightening when she realized Section 14B only covered exterior paint and mailbox tiles, nothing about walkways or docks. The room went quiet, except for the hum of the air conditioner and Vivian's increasingly heavy breathing. The next morning, flyers appeared under every door in Willow Creek, like some sneaky propaganda campaign. I saw alert, they screamed in bold red letters above a blurry photo of my walkway. Unauthorized structure endangers lakefront property values. Community input needed for beautification efforts. It was Vivian's handiwork, from the dramatic wording to the shady timing. She was trying to turn the neighborhood against me. Curtains twitched as I walked to my mailbox, and neighbors who'd once waved now ducked inside like I was carrying the plague. Her poison was working. In my garage, surrounded by the smell of sawdust and motor oil, I dug through HOA records like a man possessed. Every budget, every meeting minute, every vote from the past 3 years was spread across my workbench. Something about Vivian's obsession with my walkway felt off. She'd ignored worse violations like her own tacky flamingo lawn ornament or her body's neon yellow mailbox. This wasn't about aesthetics. It was calculated. Then I found it, buried in last year's treasurer notes, motion passed to explore lakefront development opportunities pending resolution of access issues. My walkway was the only clear path from the main road to prime lakefront lots, including an empty parcel that had been untouched since its owner passed away. If someone wanted to develop that land, they'd need my walkway and need it gone. Vivian wasn't just after my cedar planks. She was clearing the way for something bigger. A text from my contractor friend, Nate Sullivan, confirmed my suspicions. Heard some developers were pricing earthwork near the lake. Big money, but no names. I stared at my walkway through the garage window, its weathered boards glowing in the sunset. Vivian was coming for my slice of paradise, and she'd already laid the groundwork. The next morning, I woke to the roar of heavy machinery. My phone was dead perfect timing, universe, and the coffee was still brewing when a bone-rattling crack shook the house. I stumbled onto my deck in pajama pants and a faded flannel, barefoot and half awake, to see a wrecking ball smashing through my walkway. Splinters flew like shrapnel, the lake rippling with each blow. A kid in the operator's seat walked with grim precision while a crowd of neighbors watched, some horrified, some just curious. Vivian stood at the edge of my property, coffee in one hand, clipboard in the other, her earrings glinting in the morning light. "Morning, Mr. Caldwell," she chopped, like she was commenting on the weather, not orchestrating a demolition. I demanded permits, environmental studies, anything to justify this insanity. The foreman handed me a work order signed by Vivian, claiming the walkway was a safety hazard. It was flimsy, but they'd already reduced my walkway to floating debris. I grabbed my laptop and started a live stream, my voice shaking with rage. "This is Ethan Caldwell, and I'm watching our HOA president illegally destroy my property with a wrecking ball while I stand here in my pajamas." The viewer count climbed as neighbors shared the video, comments flooding in with outrage and disbelief. Nate's truck screeched into my driveway just as the final section of my walkway collapsed. "What the hell, man," he said, his toolbox clanging as he surveyed the wreckage. He picked up a splintered rail, pointing out the clean cuts. "This wasn't a rush job. This was planned. Expensive." Vivian's car peeled out as the crowd dispersed, her smile intact. But I knew this was just the opening move. That afternoon, in my dad's old garage, surrounded by his tools and 40 years of memories, I found my weapon, a 1979 lease agreement between my father, Henry Caldwell, and the Willow Creek HOA. It granted them access to our lakefront lot prime real estate for $100 a year, renewable at the landowner's discretion. Dad had practically gifted them their community jewel, the lot where they held picnics and stored equipment, for pocket change. With the lease renewal due in 6 weeks, I saw my chance. Comparable lakefront lots rented for $800 to $1,500 a month. I could demand $1,000 a month and still be generous. I hand-delivered my new lease terms to Vivian's mailbox, $1,000 a month, effective immediately. 47 minutes later, she called an emergency meeting, accusing me of extortion. The community center was packed, neighbors clutching Vivian's latest flyers, which painted me as a greedy villain. She clicked through a PowerPoint of charity events and maintenance projects my predatory rent hike would ruin. "Mr. Caldwell wants to bankrupt us," she declared, her voice quivering with rehearsed outrage. I stood, holding the lease, and said calmly, "This lot's been undervalued for 40 years. Find another lakefront if my terms don't suit you." Then I dropped the bomb. "Who started this by demolishing a legal walkway with a wrecking ball that cost more than most people's cars?" The room erupted, but the real shock came when our treasurer, Owen Mitchell, stood up. "We should discuss the $5,000 missing from our improvement fund," he said, "and the unauthorized payments to the wrecking crew." Vivian's earrings jangled like a storm warning. The tide was turning. At the annual HOA picnic, Vivian played the victim, trading her blazer for a sundress and fake tears. She unveiled a Unity sculpture of 4 kids to paint, spinning my walkway's destruction as a safety win. "Imagine if a child had been hurt," she sobbed. When I tried to respond, the microphone cut out. "Sabotaged, no doubt." Neighbors drifted away, avoiding me like I was toxic. But Clara Hayes, a quiet neighbor, pulled me aside. I overheard Vivian on her patio, talking about buying your lot for development. "She's planning something big." The pieces clicked. Vivian wasn't just bullying me. She was after my land. Rain poured the morning of the next HOA meeting, and Vivian's flyers were everywhere, announcing a community park on my lot. Her petition, signed by nearly every neighbor, called for seizing my property for public benefit. I recognized signatures from people I'd helped, families I'd mowed lawns for, couples I'd shared beers with. The board voted 3-2 to move forward, Owen abstaining. I walked home in the rain, clutching my dad's deed, feeling like the community I'd known was gone. Then Clara emailed me screenshots of Vivian's text with a developer, dated weeks before my walkway was destroyed. They outlined a plan to acquire my lot, transfer it to a company, and pocket a finder's fee. My walkway was just collateral damage. I forwarded the evidence to Nate. Time to go all in, I texted. The final HOA meeting was standing room only. Vivian, dripping with confidence, announced the final steps to seize my lot. I stood, laptop in hand, and hit play on the projector. Her text filled the screen, HOA secured. Opposition neutralized. Proceed with development. Gasps echoed as I showed bank statements of her stealing from community funds, invoices for the wrecking crew, and her consulting fees from the developer. Owen confirmed the theft, and a neighbor revealed a forged signature from a blind resident, Mrs. Evelyn Potter. The room exploded. Vivian's gavel pounding couldn't stop the crowd's fury. Someone live-streamed her meltdown as she screamed about lies and fled, paper scattering. I announced new lease terms, $10,000 a month, no events until the HOA repaid its stolen funds. The crowd went silent. The HOA would collapse under that price. Or find another lake, I said. Vivian's viral meltdown made her a cautionary tale. The board halted legal action, launched an investigation, and elected Owen as interim president. Neighbors apologized, and the community began to heal. Days later, a summons arrived, accusing me of extortion. Vivian's last-ditch effort. But at the courthouse, she didn't show, and her lawyer bailed. Clara, Owen, and others were ready to testify, armed with more evidence of her schemes. Back home, Nate and neighbors were rebuilding my walkway stronger, wider, better. The HOA dissolved, its funds returned to residents. Standing on my new walkway, I found a flyer for a new HOA. I lit it on fire, watching the ashes drift over Lake Harmony. My dad's old blueprint, tucked in the garage, had a note: walkways don't just cross water. They connect lives. He'd built more than a path. He'd built a legacy. And I defended it. So, what's your take? Was I right to burn that flyer and let the HOA die, or should I have given them a chance to reform? Have you ever faced a neighborhood bully like Vivian, and how far would you go to protect what's yours? Drop a comment, hit that like button, and subscribe for more stories of fighting the good fight. Trust me, you haven't heard the half of it.